And I have a clear memory of walking across the barnyard and he was carrying 2 buckets. And he started talking about, when you have something heavy to carry, the easiest way to do that is to carry something just as heavy in the other hand. Because if you're carrying something heavy in one hand, you're kind of dragging down to the ground, you're off balance. As soon as you put something equally heavy in that other hand, it pulls you back to center.
That's Shannan Martin. She's a best-selling author of several books, including her latest, Counterweights. The subtitle is an essential practice for holding hope in a heavy world.
If we are going to create a better world, we have to be able to get out of bed. We have to be able to believe that there is hope to be found.
I ran across Shannan on Instagram several months ago and was so captured by the way that she was able to communicate in such a strong and powerful way, but still hold so much space for beauty and hope.
What if there's so much more? And there's something so much bigger and greater.
This is the amazing Shannan Martin.
This book was so good.
Thank you.
So good. I mean, we're just going to go deep off the bat.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm built for that, so you can ask me anything.
It's usually when I meet people, they're like, oh, you're either too much. And then my husband tells me I need to be better about introing into people. But I'm always like, what's the purpose of life? But I'm in therapy right now.
Yeah.
I'm doing somatic therapy,
Yes.
which is the hardest thing ever.
Yeah.
And we're working through some really deep stuff right now from my past. And one of the things she has me do a lot of times when we kind of go really, really deep with something is when we're kind of coming out of it, she'll go, all right, look around this room and find something really pretty.
Yeah.
And settle in on that. So I'll be like, that flower is really pretty. She's like, oh, cool. Tell me about the flower. And we just kind of
Love that.
yeah, we kind of go in. So it's really, really heavy. And then we kind of turn our attention towards something really beautiful. And I kept thinking about that when I was reading this book, about the weight that we carry and then turning our attention at times and moments to something beautiful and life-giving.
Yep.
So it was really meaningful to me that, first of all, you address this, but also, to the way that you were able to give this gal some hope when sometimes I don't feel like there is a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's so much of why I wrote the book, for myself.
Yeah.
For those same reasons. The feeling that hope feels hard to find right now, and I have to find a way to carry on. I mean, we all do. And so your analogy with therapy, it's perfect. I mean, that's the whole thing. That is the counterweights practice is facing the hard parts of life and constantly refocusing on those counterweights that can help pull us back up a little bit, lift us up a little bit. And I think that's what life is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why was this important now for you to address?
I mean, for me, it was, so I would have written the book a year ago. So I would have started thinking about writing the book even before then. And it's funny how, as I set in to do that work, there was this feeling of everything feels like too much right now. And everybody I'm talking to, whether it's on the internet, in real life, in my work at the kitchen, life is just a lot right now. And people are struggling. And I'm struggling. And just, it's not just politics. It's not just, my own baggage with church.
Come on.
Which that we can get into that.
Yeah.
But it's also just being a person. That's just baseline. That's just hard work. It's hard. It's heavy. I'm in the phase of I'm just entering empty nest. And so that's wild to me. I mean, the emotions that's bringing up in me are kind of unexpected and unfamiliar, and I don't know what to do with it. And so you take all of these things and you pile them up, and life can start to feel pretty heavy and pretty bleak. Yeah. And so for me, when I set out to write the book, I had that feeling of I wish this was coming out right now. Right now is when people need it. And what if we don't need it in the same way 2 years from now?
Yeah.
Well, the good, terrible news is we need it even more now than 2 years ago when I wrote it. So it feels like we're on kind of a one-way street towards doom. And that's just,
there's my quote for the show. I'm going to clip that out right there.
I'm just speaking for myself here. I mean, it just feels like every day we find out something else that's even worse. That's how it feels for people who are staying in the loop, you know. Yeah. And at the same time, I really love life. I'd like to stay here, you know. I'd like to keep doing this. Yeah. I love my life, and those things are in tension. You know, it's complicated, and it requires nuance to say both of these things can be true at the same time. Life is so heavy, and the world feels like it's burning down, and I really love it here. How do we carry those two things together?
I have a lot of questions for you.
Yeah. Good.
Before then, I want to give just context for those who are new to your work. Just anything. I know, you know, there's a lot there, but contextually to understand who you are and your particular worldview right now in 2026.
Yeah.
What brought you here? What got you here?
Man, I mean, that's a story that spans a lifetime in so many ways. I mean, I think we're always being built of our choices and our environments and our opportunities, and you know, so it all got me to here, right? Yeah. But I would say the most pivotal paradigm shift for me was 14 or 15 years ago. My family, at the time our kids were young, like little tiny kids, not all of them were potty trained yet. We relocated from what we considered our dream farmhouse. So my husband and I, we didn't grow up in the same area, but very similar upbringings, rural kids who had grown up in very homogenous conservative communities. Yep. And that's where that's just the path we were on. That's all we knew. That was, you know, quote, the good life that we thought we were supposed to want. And so we wanted it, and we built it, and we had it. And through a course of events that felt kind of small and slow, you know, we started to realize that maybe we had gotten something wrong in our faith. Maybe we had missed something. And what we started to see was, for us, we were doing all the things we were told and taught to do. We were sort of like poster children for some people in faith circles. And when we could take a step back, we felt like what we were really doing was living the American dream with a side of Jesus.
With a side of Jesus.
Right. We're going to bring Jesus along with what we've got going on here. And we're going to be, you know, moving up the ladder in our careers. We're going to be making money. We're going to be really sheltering our kids as much as possible, which there's another layer there because our kids all came into our family through adoption. Yeah. So our kids are Black and Asian. Yeah. And we were sheltering them in an almost exclusively white community, but we didn't even see that as like, that just felt like, you know, we didn't think about it at all, really. So through that course of events, we ended up selling that farmhouse. I mean, to say people around us didn't understand that decision is an understatement, because we really thought that was going to be our forever home. Our
put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I mean, we loved it. It was, you know, 6 acres and pastures and, you know, a little creek and all the things. We moved into what would be considered by most people in my city a little overlooked neighborhood on the wrong side of the tracks. I'll use air quotes there because, I mean, part of my story is it's 100% the right side of the tracks. But that's not how most people would see it. And moving into the neighborhood and learning to live as neighbors with the people around us was just a complete game changer. And so it changed the way I see the world. It changed the way I see God. It changed the way I see myself in the world. It changed my politics. It changed the way I raise my kids. It changed the way I see money. I mean, it over time, I mean, none of this happened overnight. Yeah. But it really upended us. And so, you know, to say a lot of the things we're probably going to talk about here today, that's the first chapter of that story.
And you worked in DC a little bit too, right? Were you that before you got married and had kids, or?
No, it was before kids. It was early. We got married very young. You know, that was just the playbook.
Sure,
we followed that playbook. We met in college at our little small Christian college, and I was a couple years ahead of Corey. When he graduated, we moved to Washington, D.C., and we both worked in very conservative federal politics. So he worked for two different congressmen, you know, at two different seasons, and I worked at the Heritage Foundation a lifetime ago. I mean, it was a long time ago. So we only lived in D.C. for about a year, a little less than a year. We thought we'd be there 2 years. Congressional cycles are 2 year. And so we were kind of working off of Corey's career because, of course, we were. And we were there for a little less than a year. He was promoted back to the district in Indiana. And I continued working for Heritage for a little while longer remotely, which is wild to me because I still had dial-up internet when I was doing that. So remote work was not really a thing. But my boss at the time really wanted to keep me on. We worked well together. And I learned some really important things from that time and from him. And I just couldn't have shifted further than from that vantage point.
That's a big deal to shift from where you were to where you're at now. And you said that there were like these little, I guess like nudges about like, you know, questioning start. Do you remember when you kind of got that first, whether it was like an internal or external kind of like validation that maybe the questions that you had, you weren't slipping away from God or, you know, going off track that, whoa, maybe we really were wrong, and maybe there is something really effed up, and maybe we got this Jesus thing messed up. Do you remember when that was?
I remember various moments of feeling that way. It's one of those things that's a little mystical, I would say now.
I love mystical.
That would have been a bad word at the time. I would not have used
that new age stuff, man.
Right. But I remember it in hindsight. It felt, and maybe even at the time, it felt like this is like the most Jesus-y, Bible-y thing to say, but it really felt like scales fell off of our eyeballs.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we were just on a path and life was good and it was comfortable, it was secure. And then I just remember it was almost like a smack upside the head, or I don't know exactly what precipitated it, but the thing for me and for Corey, I would say, and this is good. Some of this is going to sound weird. Like, I hope everybody just keeps listening for the full context, because I'm going to be very honest here and a little messy. We realized that all of a sudden oh, wait, God really seems to care for the poor. This was kind of news to us.
Friend, keep going. I understand where you're coming from.
Okay, good. It sounds and it is a very privileged thing to say.
Yep.
And when we started to realize, like, oh no, like this seems to be a really big deal, and it seems to be like sort of a through line through the Bible, and we don't know anyone who is materially poor. Yeah. I mean, we certainly knew people who were, in various states of whatever, but I mean, in terms of like real struggle, our lives we did not have proximity to that at all. And that was the initial thing that we were like, okay, like that tension started to build, because it's like, if this is something that, God is telling us throughout Scripture to care for the poor, and we can't name anyone who might even fit that, I mean, what are we doing? And so that became the impetus for us to realize maybe we need to sell this house and get out of here.
Wow.
And so again, there was a lot of confusion, a lot of judgment from the people around us, because it was like, no, this is like the end point. Like, this is the good life. This is somebody that I really love used to say, this is God's country. Like, raising your kids out in the country in this very white, conservative, Christian community, like, how dare you walk away from that? And then to move into, we moved like 20 miles away. It wasn't like we didn't move a great distance, but it also felt like another world. Right. And we moved into a community that is very, very different from the one we came from. So I do think there were just some of those, almost like, you take one step back and your field of vision is a little different, or your focus is a little different. And you just start to, I remember feeling and thinking, and I still feel this way, how on earth were we both raised, from birth, evangelical Christian, Awana, VBS,
Yeah, girl.
Sunday school, Bible quiz team, youth group, church camp. I mean, we both did all of it. And so then to be in our 30s and be like, oh, wait, God cares about the poor. Like, literally.
Yeah, I know. Not
just in sort of an impotent, like, bland sort of like, God loves everybody. I mean, this is different. And how did we miss this? And I still don't really know the answer to that. And to be really clear, I don't blame my parents for that.
Yeah.
I think it became, my parents were early Christians when they started having kids, and they were trying to raise kids during the satanic panic.
Yeah.
They were being warned by the people they looked up to avoid this, and this. And I mean, everybody's doing the best they can. The problem is not with a particular person in my life or in Corey's life. The problem became the system.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The system that let those really fundamental tenets of my faith fall through the cracks. Yeah.
There had to be something really strong, and maybe it was hard, maybe it was easy. I don't know. I'm curious about this, that kept you on the Jesus path.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, burn the effing ships. Like, these people are hypocrites. And I think that's what's so understandable about the deconstruction community.
Yeah.
Is because rightfully so, it's like a betrayal, like, what, Jesus said this, and like, nobody's living that.
Yeah.
But one thing that's given me a lot of hope, and something that I'm wrestling with too, and just exploring and so curious about, is kind of like that other wave of like a reconstruction community, and people who are actually saying the name of Jesus and actually returning back to scripture for the first time. I was like, I'm not going to read the Bible for all,
Yeah.
And went back to it, and I'm like, similar to you, I'm like, what, the poor, the immigrant, what? And you memorize these scriptures growing up, but they meant nothing.
That's right.
They meant nothing.
Yeah.
So why Jesus with you and your husband?
Yeah. I would say initially, so when we moved into Goshen, into our new neighborhood, into the home where we still live, Jesus was still very much on the table. Like, at that point, it was kind of like, oh, we've messed up.
Yeah.
We kind of got something wrong. We're going to course correct. And we really were making some progress, but, our progress is always, it looks different depending on how near or far you are from it. So there were a lot of people around us saying, okay, fine, you're moving into this kind of dangerous neighborhood. It's not, by the way. But people assumed it was for various reasons. You're moving there. Are you going to plant a church? Are you going to start a food bank? And it's funny to me, Heather, like, in this moment, I'm like, little did we know, my husband was going to end up being a chaplain, and I was going to end up working at a community kitchen. Yeah. I don't know that I've ever really thought about that until right now. But there was this idea of like, okay, maybe we will give you permission to do this if you're doing ministry.
Right.
And at the time,
there's an agenda.
Yes. And we were shifting enough to be like, oh, that's bad. Like, that is, white saviorism. We wouldn't have called it that at the time. But we felt like we kind of rolled our eyes at that. Like, we're not going to the neighborhood with an agenda. Well, it turns out we were. Because once we got kind of settled in, I had this impulse to like, what do I do? Yeah. What do I do? I should be doing something. I should be like, and I really, so my faith was still intact, I would say. I was probably becoming maybe prideful about it in a different way, feeling like I was like getting some certain things right now. And I really learned and started to see, no, you're here, Shannan, to just be normal. You just live here now. You're not here to do a thing. You're not here to be a thing. you're just going to live here. You're going to make your home here.
Yeah.
And so I, of course, wrote a whole book about that. My second book is kind of like detailing what I learned through all of that. I would say the faith, like the fracture of my faith, happened later. And it probably happened around 2016 or soon after.
I've heard that a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, that's when it became, okay, if this is wrong and this is wrong, is it all wrong?
Yep.
If almost everybody from my past is supporting something that my faith will not allow me to be part of this or to support this. Like, that's where the cognitive dissonance becomes so great. That's when I stopped reading my Bible.
Yeah.
And I really stopped. Because it became too painful. It became too confusing. I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. I'm just telling my story, and it became really challenging. And even all the while, I couldn't really read my Bible. Like Christian music, praise and worship music, it became triggering to me.
Yes.
We ended up more recently going through like a really traumatic situation at our former church. Like, all these things kind of compounded to the point that almost anything having to do with white evangelical Christian church culture was like, it gave me something worse than the ick. Like, it just, I just couldn't. And all the while, I just knew God was near. I just did. And I have friends who have deconstructed to the point that they're like, absolutely not. I'm atheist now. I'm agnostic now. I get it.
Yeah.
For me, that's not what happened. For me, I started to understand that God's nearness did not depend on me reading my Bible. I started to experience Jesus not in, daily quiet time, but by hanging around our friends who were incarcerated.
Yeah.
I just started to experience my faith in unique and different and new ways. And so, I began asking harder questions. And spoiler, I don't go to church right now. I'm not part of church.
No.
But I still, for me, there's a quote in one of the most pivotal books for my entire transformation. Back when we were still in that farmhouse, somehow I had a tiny little blog, like a mom blog with my little babies. And somehow, the first time ever, somebody emailed me, probably on my Yahoo email, and said, there's this new book coming out. Would you be willing to receive a copy of it? And I was like, what world am I in? They're sending me a book for free. And I thought I had reached a pinnacle of something. They sent me Tattoos on the Heart by Father Greg Boyle. If you haven't read
that.
Listen.
Okay.
He's written 4 books now, and I devour every single one. But that was the first one. He is one of the most beautiful writers I've ever encountered. He's a Catholic priest. He runs Homeboy Industries.
Yeah. I follow them on Instagram. Yeah.
His books.
Okay.
And I might not get this exactly right, but so I'm back at the farmhouse before all these other things have happened. And I underlined that book to death. But he wrote a line that says something like, how much greater is the God we have than the God we think we have? And I think that is what I've held on to. Maybe I don't understand this. Maybe this makes me feel bad. Maybe I can't pick up my Bible for a really long time. And even into now, I don't read it like I used to. But what if the God we have is greater than the God we think we have? What if there's so much more? And there's something so much bigger and greater. That was such a comfort to me. And it still is. And I think that's one of the things that allowed me to hold on. That allows for curiosity, mystery. We don't have to make sense of it, because what if reality is just something we can't even comprehend? I can kind of put my roots there.
We are 24 minutes in. I didn't tell you beforehand. I cry every day. So I
I
can't believe
love
I've made it
that.
24 minutes without crying. But my heart.
I envy that, honestly.
Let's talk about weight.
Yeah.
I hadn't really been able to articulate like my feelings around weight until sorting through this book and your work here. Where it's like I have this strong pull to figure out who God is and like experience God and all that. And maybe some of that is like conditioning therapy that I need. It's possible in therapy. Highly recommend it. But even since I was a little girl, I just the supernatural, spiritual, like mystical, you know, I wouldn't have called it that back then, but I'm so drawn to it. And I think the thing that's been really difficult for me, and talk to my friends about this, is like when we're coming out of, and this isn't to shit on evangelical Christianity. I mean, it's religion and whatever, agenda-based faith. There's this part where I want to feel this weight because I should have felt it all along. Yeah. And I haven't. Yeah. But then God, I feel like I feel God when I'm sitting outside with my daughters and the phone is away and it's quiet, or and these just like simple, small moments. And I'd never really thought about it until I read this, that, you know, you talk about the counterweights, and I want you to explain what you mean by that. Is really, it's just like these little glimpses of God. Like like weight isn't bad, right? But also too, it's like a oxygen to breathe in a little bit of God here and there, because otherwise you're like, where the hell are you? What is going on? Yeah. Anyway, I just threw up on you, but no. Counterweights, weight. Why does counterweights matter?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna roll it back to like where this sort of metaphor came from for me. So as I mentioned, I grew up a little farm girl in Pleasant Hill, Ohio, out in the country. Graduated with 43 kids in my class, public school.
Let's go. That's
right.
Awesome.
I mean, it's a whole thing. My parents still live there. I go back there often, and there's a lot to love about it. My dad is and was he's older now. He is disabled now. But throughout my growing up years, he was like this rugged, athletic, scrappy, blue collar, as my kids would say when they were little, he was a worker guy, you know, like, I mean, he was brawny and strong and worked outdoors building things all the time. That was his work. And I have a clear memory of walking across the barnyard, getting to the barn with him. And I would have been pretty young, I don't know, early elementary school. And he was carrying 2 buckets. And he started talking about, you know, when you have something heavy to carry, the easiest way to do that is to carry something just as heavy in the other hand. And for a little girl, I mean, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, you're telling me if I double the weight, it's easier to carry. And essentially, yes, that's what he was telling me. Now, I am confident that he did not have any, like, metaphor or any life lesson in there. He was just like a practical Midwestern dad trying to get help carrying stuff to the barn. And so he's just saying, in the most literal sense, double up the weight. Because if you're carrying something heavy in one hand, you're kind of dragging down to the ground. You're off balance. You know, you can't be centered. As soon as you put something equally heavy in that other hand, it pulls you back to center so that you can move forward and gain that momentum you need to keep moving forward. And so that stuck with me. And in particular, once we were in Goshen in our new community, now, you know, through a chain of events, Corey ended up becoming the full-time chaplain of the county jail. The people immersed in our lives really struggle in ways I've never struggled. So all of a sudden, you know, that naive girl young woman on the farm was surrounded by struggle and pain and trying to figure out how to process it. And so that 2-bucket analogy kind of came back to me. So we've got a lot of heavy things that we are carrying in one hand. We better find some heavy goodness to carry in the other hand to keep us upright and moving forward. And so over time, that kind of evolved into this picture of a scale, really, where you have the weight on one side and you have the counterweight on the other side. And so on the heavy, on the pain side of the scale, being a person means we're all asked to carry things that we didn't ask for. We wish we could put them down. We can't. They're outside of our control. This is the life we have been given, and we've all been given some hard things to carry. The only way I know how to figure out how to carry that well is to remind ourselves that we have this other side of the scale, the counterweight side of the scale, where we do have a say. Like you were saying a second ago, Heather, those little moments for us, for me as a person of faith, I think those little moments where I catch my breath, where I remember what I love about this life, this world, where I notice something beautiful, where I delight in something, I trace all of that back to God.
Yeah.
I think people who don't experience faith in the same way I do, I think counterweight still works for them. Because I think in so many ways we're already doing this. We're trying to find a way to survive. We're trying to find a way to make our lives a little bit more positive. And so I come along with this word, right? I'm giving it a word, and it's a word that is attached with a mental picture that really sticks for me, and I think for a lot of us. And once we name that, then it becomes part of a rhythm and part of a practice that we can do throughout our lives, so that we're not just like, oh, cool, I saw the sunset, and that's great. Yeah. It's like, okay, there's a counterweight. Yeah. And we're putting it in that other bucket. We're making deposits into that other side of the scale. And it's never about achieving perfect balance. I don't think that's really possible. I don't think life works that way. But what it does mean is that when we're tipped all the way over into despair, which I am prone to do, any little thing that we can put in that other bucket just lifts us a little further up off of the ground. And right now, that feels like a win, Yeah.
What I loved is some of your examples of this were just so simple, like the black sweater that you wanted to wear in mourning.
I wore it for like 5 days in a row.
I bring that up because you said something like you allowed yourself to wear it for however many days. You know what I mean? And a girlfriend and I were just talking about this the other day, where we almost feel guilty looking for joy.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And we don't know how to wrestle with that. Yeah. So,
yeah, me too.
Folks can hear this and be like, yeah, but should I be feeling any joy right now?
I found myself feeling guilt often in moments. I mean, I was either kind of sunk in despair and everything, this is a hellhole. Everything is wrong. I'm mad at everyone. I'm an Enneagram 8. I go straight to anger. That's why I went to therapy. But anger is a really comfortable and familiar place for me. And it's one of my superpowers, I really believe. But I was either living there or I was having a really beautiful moment of just being a person, whatever that meant in that moment. But a second outside of that, was this feeling of guilt or shame of like, who am I to be enjoying my life right now when, people are being bombed, when people are living unhoused, when people are starving. I mean, I can really easily go down the list of things that are so much, things that are just way too heavy for anybody to carry. And I know that this is the human task. This is the human project. This is what, for me, for people of faith, we hear about Jesus promises us the abundant life. I always thought about that before as like, oh, we get the good stuff, yay. I was raised in some prosperity gospel theology. Okay. And so it's like, okay, I know abundance. give me that caddy, you know, or like, give me that. I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to never suffer. That's the abundant life. I think that's a really anemic view of abundance. I think actual abundance means we get it all. We get this heavy stuff and we've got to wrestle with that and figure out how to carry it. And we do get the good things that God has promised. We get this beautiful world that breaks our hearts. But I mean, I'm experiencing spring right now today. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, there are flowers on the trees. Like the world is burning down in a sense, and trees are bursting into life right now. We get it all. So that to me is the abundant life. And our job is to figure out how to carry that abundance. And I think the best way that we learn to carry that abundance is to do that in community, to remind ourselves of the duty we have to each other. What I don't want Counterweights to seem like or to be for anybody, this is not making a gratitude list. It's not counting our blessings. Nothing wrong with those things. Yeah. This is about giving sacred attention to both. This is about naming the things that are weighing us down, the things that hurt. It can be really grounding and, what's the word? I mean, when we take the time to name the things that hurt, I think that kind of returns us to ourselves. I think that connects us with a God who is deeply honest about reality. And so Counterweights is asking us to do both, to name the things that are hard and then to keep looking around us. And I'm whenever I say looking around us, I mean in the most literal way, like you just described. I mean, get outside, look for something in your home right now. Grab a glass of fizzy water, hydrate. All of these little things that I don't know that they would even make it on a gratitude list, right? If that's all I was doing. But finding those little things that help keep us going so that we can continue to do that work of fighting for each other, to do that work of justice. I mean, for me, I'm very, very justice oriented. And so the point is we've got to be able to get out of bed if we're going to do the work of justice. If we are going to create a better world where there's enough belonging for everybody, we have to be able to get out of bed. We have to be able to believe that there is hope to be found. And if these little things along the way help us to do that, I think that's the secret.
I was describing you to a friend this morning, saying I was coming here to interview you, and I was talking about how this is so cool. I haven't seen, I don't know, anybody do what you've been able to do to pull like very strong social justice. Like how you have a very strong social justice voice, but you tie it somehow. I don't know how you do it. It's like this mystical weird thing you do, but it's into like all this like really pretty stuff and like very earthy and beautiful and simple. And it was like when I first saw you on the internet, I was like, oh, this is really, beautiful and all. Then I started digging your work. I'm like, this is deep, and it was so cool. I mean, I think
it's a little disorienting.
You're living the Counterweights. It's not disorienting. It's a breath of fresh air. It really is. I was thinking this morning. I'm really bad about asking questions. I'm like a pastor. I'm like 10-minute explanation, but
you're processing. I love that.
I was journaling and I was thinking like, what do I really want to know from her? Mm-hmm. And the word apathy came up for me. I've been struggling a lot with apathy. And part of it, I think I'm about to hit 40 and I'm like, maybe this is just a part of being about 40.
Yeah.
Also the collective weight of everything that's going on. It sounds wild, but it's just true. I never thought in my life I would ever say what I'm about to say to you, but it's been almost a fight to stay passionate and engaged because you just want to go numb.
For sure.
Yep. So I was thinking about it in regards to, you use this analogy of the bucket, and like maybe you haven't been investing, and looking for the good, and that's a hell of a heavy bucket.
Yeah.
And getting that weight back, and I'm sure it just takes time or whatever, but learning to feel again and see good again.
Yeah.
And again, I know this is probably the answer is time or whatever, but it could feel a little daunting to think like, this is a hell of a lot of weight. I don't even feel anymore.
Yeah.
I've cut off. I feel apathetic. How do we kind of start the process?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think some of us struggle to reorient ourselves to what's good in the world. And I think some of us really struggle to acknowledge what is broken in the world. I mean, so I can see apathy on both sides. And I think most of us are prone towards one or the other. I have people in my life who are like, tra-la-la, what problems? Like when I set out to write Counterweights, I said to somebody, we all feel like everything is terrible. And this person said to me, not everybody feels that way. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, I know that's true, but I don't know. Like, I struggle with a distrust of like, if you don't know that everything is pretty terrible right now, you're just not paying attention. So I'm here, I think, to remind people on both sides of that, struggling with apathy towards what's bad or struggling with, inattention maybe towards what is good. We've got to get a little closer to the ground. We've got to get a little more serious about our place in this world, and our job to do. I mean, one of the things that Corey says in his work, with incarcerated people, nobody should have to die to experience the kingdom of God. The first time he said that, I was like, uh-oh, are we in trouble? Like I have those moments still. I'm almost 50. I'm probably 10 years ahead of you. And I'm like, but also for me, that's the most compelling thing I've ever heard in my life. Like what if our business was to move as close as we can to the kingdom of God now, to do our part to get to that place now. I feel like I'm not answering your question because I don't really like, how do we start? I mean, I think we start with honesty, with real radical honesty, and that's going to look different for all of us. I mean, when we evaluate our lives, when we evaluate our deepest, truest thoughts, the things that we feel like we're not allowed to say out loud, especially for people coming out of like restrictive faith environments like you and I both have, I think it requires us to know ourselves. And especially with women, especially women raised in spaces like we were, a lot of women don't know. Like, what do you like? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you imagine the future to be like? I have no idea. And so if we're going to do the work of keeping ourselves whole and grounded and able to keep our heads above water, to be people who know how to breathe through the chaos, right? This doesn't eliminate the chaos, but it helps us to breathe through it. We have to do that work of knowing ourselves. So I think, yeah, time is part of it, unfortunately. I mean, I think we're always, with age, we shed some of those inhibitions. We get a little more honest with ourselves. I think that's always happening, Yeah. But we should do a 10-year reunion podcast and see how we both feel 10 years from now. I think there has to be, a basic acknowledgement of, this feels shitty. This world is breaking my heart. I'm mad. I'm sad. Whatever it is that hard thing that we're feeling, give that some real honest attention. And then find a way to cling to that hope. Find a way to move forward in hope that feels authentic to us. My hope is that as a practice, this Counterweights practice is something that we just start to reach for. Like when you're having a moment like that with your daughters, I mean, I say to myself in my home now, I'm home alone a lot more than I used to be. And I'll say sometimes out loud, where are my counterweights? And just that word can kind of trigger like, okay, there's something right now within my reach. There is something, even if it's not immediate, even if it's like something I can look forward to. But sometimes it's like looking up at the sky. I mean, I don't know. Sarah Miles has a quote, God is always happening. And I think that's true. And again, it's one of those like very simple and very profound things. Because I agree with her, I think God is always happening. Counterweights are always happening. And this isn't a like treat yourself situation. It's not about being bougie or spending money or, having privilege. It's about finding the things that connect us back to who we are and who God is and what this world is asking of us and what this world is offering us. I think creation is often like calling to us, like, let me help. Let me help you. And so we can't really key into what those good things are, those life-giving things are, until we slow down and recognize, like, I need to do this for myself. I need this if I'm going to keep going.
Yeah. The way I kind of am interpreting what you're saying, and I'm curious your thoughts. And by the way, like all this stuff it's just like wrestling. You know what I mean? Like it's, and I'm going to sound super woo here, but I'm a little woo.
Can't wait.
I feel like there is like different dimensions going on. Like there's different, like if you think about kind of like a matrix layer on top of reality where we literally have this digital world that is real, but it's also not real. And we have digital identities and we have like the chatter and all that. And then you get physically, in this plane. Yeah. And you see a freaking bird and you're like, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, whoa. It's kind of jarring. And I know this sounds dramatic, but it's really, sometimes I feel, and this is, I didn't grow up, I didn't grow up with a cell phone. I had a little beep, 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 whatever that was. You had to hit the buttons.
Yeah.
You do the text message.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like if I kind of get in here and then I step out of it, it's literally jarring where you just said it a minute ago, like you're returning back to kind of the physical and the earth. And that's what I was kind of getting out of this is it's almost like an invitation to get back to like physical things. Yeah. Because there is a lot here that, you like this wallpaper, like that sparkling water was fire, and but we don't live in this world. We live in this other space. Right. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what I got from this.
Yeah. I don't know that I ever even really thought about it that way, but I think you're right. I mean, I think it's the particulars that make life often so beautiful. It's like we have universal pain. We have global pain. We have things that like we can all relate to. We've all experienced death. We've all experienced, I write in the book about kind of my body breaking down in some ways. That's something we're all going to experience in one way or another at one time or another. We've all experienced division, loss of relationship, loss of belonging. Most of us probably at some point or another. So a lot of times I think the weights can be, when I set out to write the book, I wanted to be as weirdly honest as possible about like, what are the things that are weighing me down over this year or two? And what are the things that are helping to lift me back up? And so they are honest at times to the point of quirkiness, like specificity, right? And so it's often like these very, like you said, like, hello, bird. Like the birds, there are Bible verses about this, right? But like the birds are just doing bird things. And we're invited back into this physical world that is so abundant that we need to take great care with, right? I mean, it's not as abundant maybe as it once was, but maybe we can return it there. I don't want to be too flippant about any of this. But I really believe our particular lives are offering what we need to get through what we've been handed. Our lives are not promising us, we're not promised a life without pain. I think quite the opposite. We're promised some pain. We are promised some struggle. My life means that I also get like secondhand pain from walking with people who struggle in ways I have never struggled and probably never will. And so we get to walk closely enough with each other, breathing the same air, walking the same blocks, that we feel their pain too. And I think that's sacred. I think that matters. I think we should be paying attention and find ways to be honest about that. And while we are promised pain and struggle, we are given a beautiful life filled with random things that make us laugh, that help us to cry. Grief is a counterweight to loss. Our tears are really holy and important. Our grief is mandatory. So this world is it's crammed full of surprises and art and road trips. Yeah. I took a road trip today with my husband and my daughter, and there's something really beautiful about just driving through. Now we're seeing some mountains. Now we're seeing, it's like this is a magical place, and we get to be in it, and we get to be in it together, and we get to be a part of it. We get to go to Buc-ee's.
Heck yeah.
I mean, there is so much good happening around us. If we can begin to accept this is our abundant life, we have these 2 buckets, and we're going to find ways to lug these buckets around. We're going to do that together. We're going to help shoulder the load for each other whenever we are able. We're going to keep pushing towards hope. I'm all for us getting very specific and weird about what those things are in our lives, because there's no reason to feel guilty for finding something beautiful, for having. I very recently wrote in my little journal. I keep a Counterweights journal now, and I write a couple things, mostly political, because that's what I need to name right now for me. Yeah. Like, what are my political weights today, and what are a counterweight or 2? And I wrote, this was a perfect Sunday. And I wrote down what made it perfect, and it was nothing fancy. Yeah. It was time, it was space, it was rest, it was good food, I'm sure, maybe good music. We're still allowed to have the most perfect day, even when the world is burning down, because you know what? Tomorrow, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what headlines I'm going to read. And so we're constantly just redistributing this weight.
You're such a great communicator.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. I just listened to you talk forever.
I'm a yapper.
We only have a few minutes left, and I'm going to ask you a hell of a question for 8 minutes, but have fun with this one. You've said hope so many times in this conversation. I love that. Yeah. It's my daughter's middle name. I love that word so much. I love that. I love it. How do we have, this sounds so bad, but this is so honest. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Hope for the Christian people in our life and not be angry and see the good in that. I think about the counterweight to that. Yeah. I love anger too. My therapist says that you get healed, you get angry a lot. You know what I mean? So there's some goodness there. But the things you post, the things you're brave enough to say, I admire the hell out of you. I've told you that, and then responses, old people from the past, whatever. We don't want to write anyone off as humans, but it's wild to try to wrestle and see the goodness and have balance there. Yeah. Because
I struggle. That's one of the hardest things. I appreciate the honest question. I'm going to be as honest as I can be in my answer. I mean, I have lost belonging with a lot of people, or had that belonging mm, not broken but injured, maybe, with a lot of other people. And it goes both ways, because it's a real struggle. Like, white Christians as we know them to be, like, in mass, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not all, but in mass we know what they voted for, we know what they value, we know what they don't value. And it's devastating for me to reckon with that. It's like I say all the time, for all my life I will never understand it. If I can step a little bit outside of that, because I part of me does understand it. You know, part of me knows, number one, when I become my most angry and my most bitter in this way, when I lose hope that anything can change, and when I, like, my impulse, and I have to fight against this, and I really do have to fight against this. I don't think it's a healthy impulse. I am a very gut driven person, and my impulse is often like, I'm done with you. Like, I mean, cut off. That's my impulse. And I wrestle with this stuff every single day. I wrestle. When I feel like the answer is to just cut off, and sometimes it is, by the way.
Yeah.
It can't always be that, is what I think I'm saying. Like, that can't always be the answer. Sometimes it is. In my healthiest moments, I can remember I am my best example that people can change. If I can look in the mirror and I've said, nobody changes. You know, Corey and I have these conversations. We talk with friends, you know, that there are names for these philosophies. I don't know the names, but, like, the more you press somebody who you disagree with, the more they dig in their heels, and the less likely they are to change. And, you know, all these dynamics are happening. And so it's easy to be like, nobody's going to change their mind. Everybody's just going to become more polarized. I am an exception to that. And to the extent that I am able to remember that, I mean, I think you are too, Heather, probably. Like, we are examples of people who have kind of radically changed our minds, reconfigured some things, lost some relationships, some security, some belonging. I don't know. There's a price to pay. And so the most grace I can have for people close to me who I just think, how are you supporting this? I mean, that's the question I ask myself every day. The issue might be slightly different, but, like, you know, thinking of people I love, how are you supporting this? What I know is, at the moment they stop supporting that, they will lose all of their belonging. They'll lose it all. And that's not to make excuses for people. That is to invite some empathy into a complicated world. So it doesn't excuse it, but maybe it helps us understand it. And I know firsthand, belonging can be recreated. It can be regenerated. It can be built from the ground up. I think stepping away from that really binary, you know, everybody's either the best or the worst, to remembering we're all just people. We are being shaped by different things. I am lucky that I got to be thrown into a community where there's a lot of difference around me, and that difference changed me forever. I mean, changed my life, changed the course of my family. I think of people I know who are struggling to see anything differently, and their worlds are just very contained. And I don't know how you break free from that. And I don't think the answer for most people is to move to another neighborhood. Like, I really don't think that's the answer. I hope that I am able to remain patient. And I'm not always sure that I'm going to be able to. It's a war. It's a war every day. I I pray very differently now. We've already both admitted that we're not great Bible readers at this point. No. I picked mine up for the first time in a while recently, and I kind of immediately regretted it. Am I allowed to say that?
I love you.
But the thing is, like, I don't doubt God's presence with me. I don't doubt God's love for me.
I know.
And so that's freeing.
Yeah.
How much greater is the God we have than the God we think we have? So yeah, I don't really. I just kind of know that God is with me, and so if God is with me, God knows what I'm thinking about. I don't have to I don't have to tell God what I'm thinking. I really think God knows what I'm struggling with. Like I think God is just already invited in. God's already got the invitation. God's already here. And so we can take some of that like legalism or whatever it is, some of that away from it and just accept that God is going to show us what's available to us to help us carry that faith, to help us load that other bucket with hope.
Final question for you, but before then, I feel so lucky that I got to meet you.
Same.
Interview you is cool, but just getting to meet you and see your face and hear your voice. I'm new to your work. It's only been a few months since I've really dug in and gotten to know you, but what a gift you are in this world. It's here goes Heather getting teary again. It is, there's so much fighting is so important, you know?
Yeah.
But being able to do that from a place where your heart doesn't get hardened and you open hands, open heart, like you still show up fully is so tricky.
Yeah.
And I feel like this book is a great place for folks if you feel the weight, literal weight, everything that's going on. Cindy, shout out Cindy. I love you, Cindy. Cindy told me this morning, she goes, what a perfect time for that book. I was telling her about it.
Oh, good.
Counterweights, it'll be out by the time this comes out, but the links will be in the bio for folks to grab it. Is there anything else you want to point listeners to? You have a lot of books.
This is my fourth book. You can follow my work on Substack and Instagram and Threads. I mean, those are places to find me.
Highly recommend your Instagram.
I'm so glad you appreciate it.
I love it.
Yeah.
You're like, here's some sweet tea. By the way,
you know what? We are
I love it.
Complicated people. I mean, that's what I wish every one of us would find ways. That's what Counterweights is.
It is. Yeah.
Counterweights is it's like some real, like I'm talking about really heavy things in that book. I mean, some really heavy things. Yeah. And I'm also talking about, like, I love to go thrifting.
I love the Taylor Swift thing. Like, you list the songs.
Taylor Swift is so polarizing. I'm sorry, guys. Like, for me, Taylor Swift got us through a really devastating season in the weirdest way ever. Like, I didn't expect that. Yeah. It was this world, this physical world, offering me what I needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I mean I wanted the book to be like a physical. This is the most Shannan Martin thing I've ever written. I wanted it to be something my kids, as they're getting older and leaving me, like, here, this is your mom. You know, if you ever miss me, read this book. And I also wanted it to be like a representation of, you know, I put the little fun like lists and like little bonuses between every chapter, all these short little chapters, to remind us, like, this is a counterweight within a counterweight. It's like very, very meta, like the mugs with the mugs with the mugs of Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah. The book is a little bit that way. Like, you're going to read about some heavy things, and then we're also going to keep remembering to look for the counterweights, and they're always going to be there.
I love it. Counterweights, please, y'all get it. And then one thing I didn't mention, I mentioned to you before we hit record, what a freaking awesome writer. Gorgeous writing. Gorgeous writing,
Thank
gorgeous
you.
storytelling. Oh, my God. Very last question. We have to do this fast.
Okay.
What is something in your life you are deeply questioning right now?
What is something in my life I am deeply questioning right now? I am just deeply questioning, what is my life going to look like when all my kids leave? That's my, like, I'm in that moment of, I'm at that age, and we're moving a kid far away right now this weekend as I speak. Like, what is my life going to look like? And it makes me kind of sad sometimes, but it also, like, I can see hope in it. I really believe life is going to continue to surprise me.
Come on.
Yeah.
So I like to say it wasn't your fault, but it is your responsibility to heal.
That's good.
And that's the thing. It's none of the stuff that happened to you was your fault. But that's the unfortunate piece of this, is then you are left cleaning up the mess.